Hey everybody, it's the Dynamite Show. Paul Fontaine, Jeff Hawkins here on the Fight Game Media YouTube channel. I want to thank you all for joining us right after Dynamite ends, and for all of you listening on Thursday morning on the free audio feed, I want to thank you as well. Jeff, normally before we go on the air, we usually talk. What should we talk about before we actually get to recapping Dynamite? And we didn't actually do that today
Right.
because we were talking about other stuff. So I wanted to talk about something that has come up a lot this week, and especially as it pertains to last Saturday's Collision and then today's Dynamite and Collision tapings in Kent. So they
Okay.
had that show last week in Mexico. Very
Right.
good show, well received. They did a great TV number. They did a great live attendance. And then they didn't book anything for Collision. They didn't book anything for Dynamite. As of Friday night, they still had not booked anything for Collision. They started announcing stuff very late Friday night. And then by Saturday, I think even by the time the show started, there were still only like 3 matches booked. And, they did a show and people that went liked it and everything, but they didn't sell a ton of tickets. And then they did the same thing again tonight, where I think it was yesterday afternoon. All they had announced was, on Saturday they announced Kota Ibushi would be there, but they didn't say it was going to be a match. So the way they worded it, I thought, he's just going to be there. But no, then they said it was going to have a match against Trent Barretta, which is, they might as well have just said Kota Ibushi's in action. And that's all they announced. And then, today I think they announced a couple 4-ways, and that's it. And the Hurt Syndicate will be there.
Can I be this guy? I don't mean to hijack your point, because I think I know what you're building to.
Well, I was pretty much done.
Why are Bryan Danielson and Kota Ibushi appearing on shows that aren't Dynamite?
Well, I don't know if Bryan Danielson appeared on any show. I don't think
the Ring of Honor Worlds Collide show or whatever it was.
I think that was after the cameras went off, but I guess we'll find out tomorrow.
Okay.
Because he ran in after a match. They were doing a beatdown, and then he made the save for the baby faces. I can't remember who all was in there.
Blue Panther was in there because
Blue
that's
Panther was in
back
there.
to that thing from Ring of Honor. So I guess
that's
cool, but still,
it's possible he's on that Ring of Honor show. If he is, they didn't advertise it, which would make sense since it was a run-in. But they're also they're kind of it's funny because they taped this thing and everybody knows they taped this thing, but they're trying to act like it's live because they were saying, because they shot an angle on Saturday to set up a match that had already been taped, which is, don't get me wrong. I'm not criticizing them. It's normal booking. It's been done for centuries.
I will allow the Bryan Danielson. Why is Kota Ibushi appeering on a Collision as opposed to re-emerging on a Dynamite, and then you hype it all week that he's going to be in action?
Do you want the real answer?
No, it's a rhetorical
No, I'm going to tell you because it doesn't matter.
Okay.
No, Kota Ibushi's not drawing any viewers or selling any tickets. Like, the amount of people that even know about him is very little. He's been on AEW TV before, but it hasn't been in a long time, and it wasn't for very long. And it's been 5 years since he was even relevant in New Japan. This is Minoru Suzuki.
He was the hero of Blood and Guts, 2 years ago?
The hero?
Yeah. He took the most damage of anybody, at least.
Are we remembering a different match? Didn't he
the Blood and Guts match where he took a whole bunch of crap into his back and stuff?
I thought he couldn't even walk or something. Or is that a different match?
Yeah. No, it's the same match.
But okay. Still. Was that the one where he rode a bike down to the ring?
I think so.
Okay. I don't remember him being the hero. But if he was,
all right,
take your word for it.
No, I just don't like. He was the sympathetic or the emotional fulcrum of the match. I
will say he means a lot to a very small amount of people.
Okay.
And so the reason I would say it doesn't matter is because for those small amount of people, they're going to be watching anyways, and for them, it's almost better to have it be a surprise.
Yes.
Whereas, and they did advertise his appearance for Dynamite. So if that was going to sell any tickets, it did, but I don't think it did.
For me, it's like you make the surprise on the Dynamite that he returns at the end of Dynamite, and then you hype his appearance for the next week in Kent that he's in a match or whatever. It was just one of those things that I just thought, like, because to me, Collision is a footnote in a lot of things. They do good there, but it's like, okay, why are we booking big surprises over
Maria
there?
says more people than you think. I don't know what she thinks I think, but I would say the number is probably under 100,000. That would matter too. And those are your hardcore fans. So it's like those are the people that are already watching, that are going to be buying the show, the All In. Like, I don't think you're bringing in any new fans by introducing Kota Ibushi. I could be wrong, So yeah, Curryhead points out that he's happy they advertise a match for next week and involves Kota. Yeah, like as soon as we saw Kota, my thought was, okay, he's here for one reason, and that one reason is to be set up for a match with Okada, and then he's going to get beaten by Okada, and he's probably going to get attacked by the Don Callis family after the match, and they're going to have him at death's door, and then that's where we're going to get the return of Kenny Omega to make the save. And then the following week, maybe you do Golden Lovers against Okada and Takeshita.
Or Okada and Takeshita? Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, and that could be the Dynamite before All In. And that would be a huge match for these people that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And for people that have been watching Dynamite for the last few weeks, because now, you're bringing up Okada. I thought they did a great job tonight in that video package that they aired, going over the history of Kenny and Kota Ibushi. They showed footage of them. They explained a little bit, as much as you can do in a minute, about their relationship. It's something that we've wanted them to do, and Brian Alvarez famously wants more video packages. Here he got it. And yeah, so I do think that they're doing a good job with him, but I don't think he's there for very long. Like, I could be wrong, but I would be shocked if a month from now Kota Ibushi is still a part of AEW on weekly television. Like, I'm not saying we're never going to see him again.
Now, hold on. Do you think that's because he wants to work somewhere else, or because of his health?
I don't want to get inside his head.
Okay.
I thought tonight
he's older than you think too.
Well, I mean, I know how old he is, but he's older than most people probably think. Yeah, I think he's in his like mid-40s.
Right.
And it's not a young mid-40s, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like his body's been through a lot. So I think it's a combination of things. I think, put it this way, he was fine tonight. He looked okay. He looked probably better than I was expecting him to. But it's not like he looks like he's in the top tier of AEW talent. The biggest value for him is that he's an ally of Kenny Omega, and that they have a history. And so you can use that as part of the build for this match with Okada. But once that match with Okada is done, I don't really see the point of having Ibushi around. It's not like you're going to be doing Golden Lovers tag team matches.
Right.
If Omega wins that belt. Now, if Omega loses the belt and Okada is the unified champion, then maybe we see that. But that's not what I'm expecting.
Okay. So, I have a bit of a question here. And you'll excuse me if this is somewhat dumb for me. Okay, we have 2 weeks worth of Dynamites until All In, correct? We have next week. And
next week's a big one. It's the 300th. So
300 in Ontario. Should I go?
I think it'll be a good show. I'd go if I were you.
I kind of like sitting at home watching, though.
Fair enough.
And doing podcasts about it.
Yeah.
Is Blood and Guts going to be the go-home show for All In?
Okay, someone brought this up in the Discord, and that's a good question.
Okay, good. Then I'm not a moron about it, because it felt like this entire build was because there's one way to look at All In if Blood and Guts is after it. And there's another way to look at it if it's before it.
Okay.
And I don't know which way, at least as a quote unquote critic, I should be viewing this, because if Blood and Guts is after All In, all the things that should happen at All In probably shouldn't happen, right?
Okay, and this is the logic that somebody used, because my first reaction when I heard that, so somebody in our Discord, I think Shadows, I don't know who he actually is. I should know what his shoot name is, but I don't. I think I actually do know him, and I just don't realize what his username is. But anyways, he asked, "Oh, he thought that Blood and Guts would happen before All In," and I'm like, "Well, I mean, All In, we've only got 2 Dynamites left, and next week is Dynamite 300. I suppose it could be on that show, or it could be the following week." And my first reaction was, "No, that would be stupid."
Yeah,
but now that I'm thinking about it, and
you know what it would be on par with is the NWA/WCW, the night before Starrcade Chicago, Night of the Skywalkers. I think that's 88. Did an all-star War Games in Long Island or in Nassau at the night before.
Oh,
best lineup of a War Games ever. It was Tully Arn, the Midnight Express, and Big Bubba versus the Rock and Roll Express, Dusty, and a couple other guys. But it was like the best lineup on paper, and it's like one of those holy grails. Like, do they have tape of this? But I heard it was a terrible match. But you're wearing out people right before your big pay-per-view, and Blood and Guts is an exhausting match. I don't have any.
Like, I don't think you could do it on the go home show.
Right.
It would almost have to be next week. If they
but if they were going to do it, they would have announced it for 300.
And
right?
that was my thought, and that's why I said it would be stupid. Like, you want to give that match, you want to like announce it like a month out.
I think they might, because it's Ontario, which is the Bucks' backyard. I think the Bucks get the upper hand next week, and they announce Blood and Guts for the go home.
Okay, so
I think that's where we're going with.
Okay, so I had two ideas, because skipping ahead a little bit to the review, the Hangman Swerve and Ospreay challenged the Young Bucks to a tag match at All In.
Right.
But they told them to put their EVP status on the line in the match. So as soon as they did that, I'm like, well, that's dumb. Why would the Bucks agree to do that? Right. And then, of course, they respond by saying, no, we're not doing that. So, I mean, that's perfectly logical. Now, we could end up having, now I had 2 thoughts on this. And I'll do the thought I didn't have first. After this discussion, I'm thinking, well, maybe if they do decide to have Blood and Guts next week, they could set it up on Collision. Collision airs tomorrow, so they still have a week to promote it and to sell tickets. But they could have it be that if the baby faces win that Blood and Guts match,
they get stipulations.
Yeah, then they get the stipulations.
Because you have Hangman, who probably will want Texas Death with Mox.
Right.
You have Swerve and Ospreay who want the EVPs online. Who are the other ones that'll be in the match? Maybe the Ops?
Yeah.
For
the
trios titles against.
Well, the Death Riders again rematch. I don't know.
Oh, the other Death Riders, and maybe if the Ops win, the Death Riders break up. How about that? We go.
So
with that.
I had another thought, and this also involves stakes. So Maria will like it.
I like steaks. Like a little ribeye, a little.
So here's my thought, and this ties into the name of the pay-per-view. So the Young Bucks next week come out and say, "You want us to put our EVP status on the line? Well, we'll do it, but under one condition, and on this condition is that Swerve, Ospreay, and Hangman, you have to go all in. Meaning that if the Bucks lose." And if the Bucks lose, they will give up their EVP status, but only if Hangman beats Moxley. But if Hangman loses to Moxley, not only do the Bucks get to keep their EVP status, but Hangman has to leave AEW forever.
Okay.
John Moxley in his promo tonight talked about him having to find a new career. Excalibur was talking on the thing about what's the future for Hangman if he doesn't win. No. Yeah. So basically what you're doing is you're telling the fans Hangman's winning the title at All In.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm fine with that then. Okay.
And then of course the Bucks have to lose, right? Like that. I mean, that has to happen. So you're also telling the fans that they're going to lose, and they're going to lose their EVP status. So that's everybody wins, right? Because there's no logical reason why the Bucks would do this other than they get rid of Hangman.
No, and you see what I'm thinking here also is that if you're not doing blood and guts until after All In, then all these heels have to win to maintain their status to make blood and guts mean something.
Right.
So,
but this could also be the heels wanting their revenge now. For blood and guts.
Maybe
here's the other.
They'd have to put something in.
Here's my other idea.
Winner. Oh, no.
Here's my other idea. And everybody thinks that the Bucks are going to turn babyface. The Bucks end up helping Hangman beat Moxley.
And then the Death Riders eventually destroy the Bucks again or something?
Yeah.
See, I don't like that because then it reestablishes the Death Riders as the main baddies when really the Don Callis family should be the main force.
The Death Riders should be breaking up after this, but I don't think they are, because why would you be like, you're setting up Chris to join the group now? And
I mean, Pac hasn't even been around in ages.
No. You know what's funny is I've been watching early Dynamites and Moxley's feuding with Pac.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Hangman cut a promo on Moxley on the show I just watched. So I just pretended it was for All In.
All right, enough of this jibber jabber. Let's get to the
review. Who do you have as the villain of the company after Moxley loses the title and the Death Riders thing going down? MJF. Who's going to win the Casino Gauntlet? We'll get to that.
Yeah.
All right. So we started the show off, and they did the intros thing where people are walking in, and just like WWE does. In fact, there's a lot of stuff on the show that was like WWE does, and that is not a complaint.
No,
you and I both like WWE, and as long as it's done well, it doesn't matter. But
hold on a second. You know what?
Yeah.
I watched our Dynamite that we're gonna do for the review, for the special review.
Yeah,
they started with a video recap of what happened last week, and it made me so happy. Paul.
Well, they kind of had to because they hadn't aired in 3 weeks.
That's true too. Never mind.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I there's a lot of stuff.
Disregard my previous.
There's a lot of stuff they were doing on those early shows that they don't do anymore. That kind of makes me long for it, like time calls.
Yes.
And they did nothing backstage on those old shows. Like nothing. Like it was all in the ring. But anyways, they start the show with people making their entrances, and we see Timeless Tony and her dressed up like Carmen Sandiego again, and she's coming into the ring, and she's attacked by Mercedes Moné, and
who looks like $1 million in this outfit.
Oh yeah, and not only looks like $1 million, but she like looked like a killer, and she acted like a star. Like this was great, and Tony sold for her. It was awesome. So she
around her.
She looks in the camera and says, "Welcome to Dynamite," and then she beats her ass all the way into the arena, and they're fighting on the ramp. I say they're fighting. I mean, Mercedes just beating the shit out of her.
Yes.
She beats up an attendant, grabs a microphone, calls Tony a bitch. She puts a statement maker on Storm. I think she bled, or it was either her makeup or blood, but it looked good. And people came out to try and break it up, including Chris Daniels. And Daniels was like, come on, stop.
Okay, this is where Mercedes is like $125 at most, if that. Yeah,
there's like Chris 9 Daniels guys out there.
Hey, what are you doing? Yeah, okay, let's give them some credibility or something here, guys.
And by the way, she beat up an attendant, and then later on, the Bucks suspended Swerve for touching a AEW official, but I don't know.
They're hypocrites.
Yeah, but can't Tony overrule them?
Tony's not a player character. He's just a booker on here, right?
Oh yeah, sure. Oh, by the way, on I don't know. I'm gonna keep doing this, but Tony Khan made his on-screen debut on like the 5th show. He was having an argument backstage with John Moxley. I'd totally forgotten about this. And you heard Tony's voice, like it was him arguing with Mox and saying that because Mox was mad because Kenny and him were going to be lights out at the pay-per-view and it wasn't going to count. And Moxley's like, "You're putting me in a box," and all this stuff. It was pretty awesome. But anyways, So, anyways, who eventually makes a save? But Mina Shirakawa comes out.
Look, I like Mina Shirakawa a lot. This was not an outfit for fighting.
Curryhead, I don't know if I want to read this comment, but it's true.
Oh, I'll read it then. Hold on. Okay. Hold on. Y'all never dealt with a crazy 120-pound black woman before. I have, and they are crazy and dangerous.
Okay.
I get that. Nevertheless, Christopher Daniels is a professional wrestler.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, Mina Shirakawa was not afraid to break up this.
Coming out in platform shoes and half-dressed.
The half-dressed part I liked.
Of course you did. All men did, I think.
Yeah. And so Mercedes lets her go, and she says, "Darling, let the games begin." So we're going to get Mercedes and Mina next week on Dynamite 300.
Oh, I want murder death. I want Mercedes to kill her.
I predicted this 2 weeks ago. I actually put it in the Discord. I said, I guess we're getting Mercedes and Mina again. And sure enough, and it makes perfect sense. Mercedes beats her on the way to the match with Tony. And so it's good booking, good angle. It's great. Great way to start the show. And then the commentary is going down the show, and they get broken up by the Young Bucks who show up on the screen. And they said, we were supposed to have Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland in action. It's funny. They announced this like a half an hour before the show. Will Ospreay and Swerve in action. And I'm like, Blake Christian and Lee Johnson are in trouble. That's what I said, in the Discord. And sure enough, it was Blake Christian and Lee Johnson was their opponent.
Of course it was.
Yeah. And they said, no, so this match is going to happen now instead of. So basically, they're screwing around with the show, and Tony Khan's letting them. I don't understand the power dynamics here, but whatever.
Again, no, this is a good point, and I get this, and it's one of these things where I wanted them to tell this story the entire time, so that then when they decide, hey, we're sick of this crap, then it's earned. But the fact that this is the only week, really, in a few months where they've screwed with the show, makes Swerve and Ospreay's promo look kind of stupid.
Yes.
In its own way. That's my point, is it's not making everybody look good.
No, because they said, like, you've been doing this for months or years. I can't remember. And I mean,
no, they haven't.
I mean, they started years ago. They just haven't been doing it the whole time. They've been doing it off and on for a couple of years. I think it actually started in Winnipeg. On the show where they beat down Kenny Omega. So it's they'll
do it, and then they'll forget about it for about 6 months, and they'll go, "Oh, we need to get some heat on the Bucks. Let's let them."
Well, it's because they have limited dates, don't you know? So this match is now. So Will Ospreay comes out, and he's not even dressed. So that's part of the story. That's fine. He's like still putting on his boots, and Blake Christian and Lee Johnson were already out there.
That was a nice touch, I thought, though.
What, with Will still putting on his boots? Yeah. No, I liked it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not mocking it. And then the part of the story of the match was they weren't ready, and Christian and Johnson, I guess they knew, so they were ready. So they did a little bit better than you would expect these two jobbers to do. But, I mean, really, it was more or less a showcase. Like, it went pretty quick. It was a fine match for what it was.
It was 15 minutes. What are you talking about?
Really?
It went pretty quick. I thought so,
No way. Really?
I looked at the clock. It was 20 after when the match ended.
Yeah, but when did it start?
I don't remember. That's the other part.
Okay, so I'm going to look this up because for me, I felt like it was like 7 minutes.
It went through a commercial break at least.
It did, that was it. Like there wasn't. But I mean, we had that angle before.
And I'm not going to belie the
9:23. 9:23.
Okay, that's fine. But I'm not going to belie a point. But the story of Blake Christian, AR Fox, and the Beast Mortal. I mean, we need a three-way eliminator of eliminators to eliminate them losing on TV. Because
to be fair, our friend Ryan Frederick brought up Beast Mortals did have a pretty big win in the last couple weeks.
Well, yes, but still,
I'm talking about Mercedes.
I know that. I was going with it.
Yeah, but I mean, AR Fox.
Hold on, I got the joke, Paul. You don't need to explain it to me.
I wasn't explaining to you. I was moving on. But yeah, I mean, they're gaslighting us with AR Fox. Like Mercedes, like, oh, you've had a great couple weeks, and he's like, I've got all the momentum. I'm like, what? Did I miss a month of television? Like, what are they
Big
talking
Mo
about?
is wearing that AR Fox
Yeah.
jersey. Oh, he's just this close.
Yeah. And Blake Christian's never won. Lee Johnson's never even wrestles. Yeah, so this was weird. But anyways, they go through a break, and eventually he Swerve Strickland hits Blake Christian with a house call, and they get the win. And they look good as a team. It was good. Yeah. But then after the match, the Young Bucks come out, and they get into it for a little bit. And then Strickland grabs the mic, and this is where he does his promo. He says, we're not going through another year of this crap. He calls Will Ospreay the franchise and the feeling. He calls himself the most dangerous man in AEW, and we're challenging the Young Bucks to a match at All In. And then Ospreay says, you guys might be the founding fathers, but these people supported you, and AEW wouldn't even exist if it wasn't for them. So all the power you guys had, you've been abusing, and you're doing more harm than good. So at All In, you need to put your EVP titles on the line. And then Swerve jumped off the top rope into a bunch of security and refs, and the Bucks took off. They didn't answer the challenge. Cyclops brings up, we talked about this earlier, you might have missed it. If Swerve and Will win, do they become EVPs, and what do the Bucks get if they win? We don't know. And the Bucks have not actually accepted the challenge yet. So I assume they're going to have to put something on the line too. And, it remains to be seen. I can't imagine they're going to make them the EVPs. That would be silly.
Maybe. but hear me out.
Okay.
Like, it's a good way to possibly get Swerve back on the heel side.
Okay.
When he becomes mad with power, like he's wearing the ring or something. My precious, and that's not a bad story to tell. I actually liked this promo, with the exception that it made absolutely no sense about the Bucks abusing their power. I like the franchise and the feeling, even though nobody's ever called Swerve the franchise either.
He was calling Ospreay the franchise, I think.
No, it was the franchise and the feeling. That's the tag team. That's those.
Oh, okay. I
He's
misunderstood
the franchise.
Then. I thought he was calling Will the franchise and the feeling. Then he called himself the most dangerous man. Okay.
No, he was calling himself the franchise, I think. But one of these security guys did not have a good night, because it looked like he took Swerve's boot right in the face. And I was watching him.
Maybe he's getting fined for real, and that money goes to the security guy.
Yeah, well, still, it was an interesting visual, but also just kind of dangerous. But I liked the segment. I liked the segment overall. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and I mean, it adds some intrigue to the next couple of weeks, because now, are the Bucks going to accept? And if they do, why? And so,
but I do need some stips for those guys.
Yeah, and I think we'll get that. Like, they wouldn't have done that segment with the Jacksons afterwards if there wasn't a plan for that. I don't think.
Okay. Here's a pop culture corollary.
Okay.
Swerve becomes vice president, and did you ever watch the second season of Fargo? I think it's the second season.
I think so. But I don't remember it.
With Mike Milligan as the contract killer, who eventually goes to corporate and gets an office job, and he's so out of place.
Well, that's the Shield too, right?
Yeah.
Right. Isn't that what happened at the end of the
Shield? Well, the Shield was different. The Shield was Chickless character. Vic Mackey confesses to all the bad stuff he does, and his punishment is he gets chained to a desk job, but with nobody respecting him. It's about the same kind of.
Yeah. So then we got the video package that we talked about with Kota Ibushi and Kenny, and the history of them, including footage of them in DDT Pro. So that was cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was great.
Yeah, and more of this, please. Fernando said earlier, that he doesn't need video packages personally, and they're not for you, Fernando.
Yeah,
they're for people that don't know the story. So, and that's the thing. So we have to remember that there's people out there that don't know these things, and this helps them understand what's going on. Then we got the answer from Matthew and Nicholas Jackson. So he called Strickland a dumbass. And then he said, you put your hands on AEW official, so you're suspended for a week without pay. So they never accepted the challenge. Then Okada walks in with Rocky and Trent, RPG Vice. And Matthew tells him, we like you, but your boss is a jerk. And he said, by any means necessary, we got to make this guy the first unified champion. He points to Okada. And more importantly, you got to destroy Kenny Omega, but you got to start with Kota Ibushi tonight. Barretta says he's going to dismantle him, and Bucks were happy about that. Everyone walked away, and then Takeshita and Okada had a stare down, and Takeshita tells him this is only temporary, and Okada's like, yeah, whatever. And he smirks and walks away. I mean, they're not being subtle about this.
Doesn't matter. I like this a lot. I like Okada having his feet in both the Elite and the Don Callis family and kind of being that bridge. Now, don't get me wrong, Trent, in the performance of a lifetime here for him.
Well, I know.
Watch this.
Evil.
Yes,
he's like Sean Spears in NXT.
Wasn't very good, but I also like that heel groups don't necessarily always get along with each other, and I like that the Bucks Don Callis a prick, and it because that also continues their continuity of not trusting Don Callis as well. So I like those little.
This is like Cornette's crew and the Four Horsemen, like or Gary Hart's corporation and the Horsemen, like like these guys, they're getting along because they have to, but really. They're going to churn on one of them's going to turn on the other one the first chance.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because
exactly.
they're heels. They're bad guys.
Yeah.
So this leads into Kota Ibushi and Trent Barretta. And so a lot of talk this week about, we talked about it earlier in the show. Like why did they bring back Kota like this and bring him up on Collision and not Dynamite? And then how's he going to look? The last time we saw him, he didn't look very good. And he's had a lot of injuries, and Excalibur even talked about that. And so he goes in there for this match with Trent Barretta, who is charitably a mid-carder. And they, I thought Ian did a good job here of talking about the history of these two. They're both former junior heavyweights. They graduated to the heavyweight ranks in New Japan. I'm not sure if they mentioned it here. They definitely did on Saturday that Kota Ibushi is actually the first ever IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. That's the new belt that they have. He was the first one to have it. So, there is a bit of a history there. I think Okada beat him for it, but don't quote me on that. So they had a match, and I mean, he looked fine. I didn't think he looked bad at all. I mean, but he didn't look like appreciably better than anyone else in AEW. You know what I mean? Like everyone in AEW is good. I don't think he stands out. And the crowd, like there was some people in the crowd that were very vocal trying to get like Ibushi chants started, but they would kind of start up and then die because I think it was, a lot of men that were very loud, but it wasn't catching on. And Trent took a lot of this match, which I thought it should have been more of a showcase for Ibushi, but he did a lot of selling. So I don't know. Like, I don't think he looked bad, but I also don't think he looked like anyone that, like I'm not clamoring to see him against the top names in AEW.
No, he's going on his reputation, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's also too elevated of expectations from some people. Trent has a very funny tweet about it, by the way. I think he goes, first singles match in over a year, where's my celebration and video package? I only lost because I spent the last 10 days getting married and eating delicacies in Rome. Honestly, it was disrespected to even book me in that match. I had no time to prepare mentally or physically.
Wow. Okay.
Bring that to the screen, guy.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was fine. There's a few things that, like, there was one spot where he took a move and then he like got up and had this like weird look on his face.
Yeah. I remember this. Yeah.
And it was almost like it was almost comedy. And then, but Excalibur sold it like he was out of it, which was a good save by Excalibur. I'm not sure what exactly Kota was going for there. And then right after that, Barretta hit him with a Snapdragon, and Ibushi totally no-sold it, and then hit him with one. And then that's where the crowd really got into it. But then it only went like another minute after that. And then eventually he hit a double stomp and then a V-trigger and the Kamagoe-IA, which I don't really know the difference between those two moves, but they were called different. And Ibushi won. So the finish looked good. You know what match I'd like to see, and we're not really going to see it because these two are kind of on the same page, but I'd like to see him against Mike Bailey. But I maybe we'll get a 6-man with them and Ibushi, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, this felt like two guys who were a little rusty, and one guy was meant to be in there to carry the guy who hadn't been in there for the longer time through it. And yeah, it felt like that to me.
But it was fine. Yeah, and I mean, he went over as he should have. And
to me, I think this is one of those things like in the territory days, for example. That entire Don Callis family should have been out there, possibly surrounding the ring.
Yeah.
And maybe you get the baby faces to join them, so it becomes like a de facto lumberjack match. But the whole point of this match was we were trying to set up. See, it was so weird because, okay, he beats Trent, but they want to hurt Ibushi. So why aren't the Don Callis family acting like they want to hurt Ibushi instead of the stare down? That's where Tony's good match instincts versus pro wrestling instincts hurt him.
I think we're going to get what you're talking about next week.
Yes, they're going to do it for the heat, but it should have been. I mean, the way they were talking, it should have been this week. Like, he almost should have been the guy instead of Hangman.
Rocky was the only one out there, but he didn't do anything.
Right.
I think, he got into it with Ibushi a little bit. Like, I think that caused a bit of distraction and allowed Trent to get the heat for a little while longer, like standard booking. But yeah, Okada comes out afterwards and they stare down and then I think, did he give him the finger here? I can't even remember.
I don't think so.
He might as well have. He hasn't been doing the finger actually as much, but I think
he's just kind of been laughing and being dismissive, which is fine.
I think Ibushi wanted to get into it with him, and Okada just brushed him off and walked away.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was he disrespected him. And then they announced that next week these two will face each other on the 300th episode of Dynamite. So if I'll bet you if Tony Khan had a little book in that he keeps, his little duotang or whatever it is, he probably had this match written down like in the first year. If I get to Dynamite 300, it would be awesome to have Kota Ibushi and Okada wrestle each other.
Asterisk.
Yeah,
Dave will love this.
Yeah. I wouldn't go that far, but he would love this and his fans would love it. So nothing wrong with it. Don't get me wrong. Then we got a Jon Moxley promo, and this was all right. It was a little more coherent than most Moxley promos. He was in a staircase, which I think you've said in the past that the reason they do this is for better acoustics. And
it's partially that. It's partially to stay out of the pre-production stuff.
Yeah.
So
and then you also didn't have the thing with him pacing back and forth because he was sitting. So
yes.
Yeah, so that was an improvement as well. So he basically said the same things he's been saying, Page's missed opportunities and he's never lived up to his potential. World wants you to be special, but you're not. And you make me sick. I have no sympathy for your crybaby emo crap. I don't take crap from anyone. You've shied away from the gifts you've been given, but you're not what the fans think you are. While you're sitting around debating personal turmoil and who's my friend and who isn't, I don't care. At All In, I'm going to lay you out with forearms, choke you out, and after All In, you'll be looking for another line of work. The last line is what piqued my interest because that's not something he said before. So we're kind of laying the foundation that Hangman has to win. I think, like, regardless of whether they make it a stip or not, like, if by some godforsaken reason he doesn't win, I think we're not going to see Hangman for a long time.
I think you're underselling this promo.
Okay.
Dare I say, this is the best promo of Mox's championship run this time.
Okay.
And I thought this was a fantastic promo.
Okay.
Mostly, and here's my argument for it. Mostly because it wasn't dealing with the Moxley riddles about the business and being bad for wrestling. It was personal. And it was all personal about stuff that Hangman's doing in the kayfabe world of wrestling, which I loved. It was, yes, I'm tired of your emotional crap. Yes, I'm tired of you being worried about your stupid alliances instead of basically being worried about being a champion. And it also put more focus back on the whole point of giving Moxley this title, which is to be the world champion. We've been waiting for weeks for him to show us what being a world champion is. And instead, what we've gotten is him saying, you don't deserve to see the title because you're not a champion. And that's always been, for me, the fatal flaw in this run is he's telling us everything people shouldn't be, but he's not telling us why he is. He's not being positive about himself. He's being negative about everybody else. And that's a hard sell to do. And in this one, he kind of flipped the script a little bit. And I really loved this promo. This was, I'm trying to think of a better promo this year in AEW. And nothing's coming to mind per se, because a lot of people like that Ospreay promo where he got lost in the feeling and about his kid and stuff. And that thing was like a meandering piece of garbage. I loved this promo. I absolutely adored this promo.
Hangman had a really good promo on the Go Home to Revolution, if I remember.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. No, that's
really
a good
one. But this was, I don't disagree with anything you're saying. Like, I've just learned to not praise Moxley promos too hard because you tend to fire back at me about it.
No. So, well, no. But again, if he had been doing some of the things that he had been doing that we point out, like the rambling around and not exactly finding his spot where the mic's getting him in the audio and you can't hear it. And he, it's all about, this title's in this suitcase for a reason because none of you deserve to have this title, blah, 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 blah. Instead of doing the esoteric crap, this is the Moxley I've wanted. Moxley has decided to take charge again. I loved this promo.
I think that there's aspects of this angle that Tony is involved in that, for reasons, because he's got a weekly TV show that he has to do, and he's got monthly pay-per-views that he has to book. And Moxley's doing what he needs to do to get those angles over. But I think what he was talking about here, this is what his vision was for this storyline, probably from day one. And that's why he feels it. Like, this ties together, and John brought it up, the promo set up the match and the story. This is the story that Moxley has probably wanted to tell since the beginning. And so, but he, like you said, he's using his riddles and he's back and forth and like.
Okay. The other problem is he's been casting too wide of a net, and this is something that my co-host on Shake Them Ropes has pointed out. He goes, okay, if Moxley wants to change this entire industry, et cetera, why isn't he going after goofballs like MJF? Why isn't he going after guys like the Hurt Syndicate? Why isn't
this is what we said right off the bat? Yes. One of his first promos, he talked about cartoon characters, and then in the very next segment, we saw the Outrunners, and he didn't come out and do anything about it.
Exactly. So he's a hypocrite, but he's also a hypocrite with a giant ethos that he himself doesn't believe in. So we can't believe in his promos,
but we can believe everything he said here.
Everything he said here was fantastic and great and believable and personal and on the one-on-one, as opposed to this. It's like when Seth, I'm going to compare it again to another Shield promo this week. But that Seth Rollins promo was garbage this week on Raw about, I'm a visionary. I have all these things that I see and I'm the future of. Screw that. Tell me why you hate that guy.
I don't even know who he hates.
Go from there.
I really don't. No, because I don't even understand what he's doing.
It's exposition-y bullshit is what it is. And so Moxley was getting into that realm, which I didn't want. I don't need a grand vision of you changing the sport of professional blah 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 blah, blah without a plan. If you don't have a plan, shut up.
I think they're doing
without a plan is a wish. So
they are doing like an incredible job of building up the most important matches for All In, and it pisses me off. You know why?
Why?
I'm not gonna be able to watch All In.
I'm going on you, Paul.
I'm going on a road trip for 2 weeks, and we're leaving on July 12th. And so Yeah, no, I'm personally pissed off that they're doing this now, because I'm really excited for a lot of these matches, and I'm probably not gonna get to see them. So, and I don't know if I want to watch them when I get back, like 2 weeks after the fact. But I
So
don't
I'll
know.
spoil them for you. Got it.
There you go. Then we got the gaslighting segment with Renee, where she had AR Fox and she tells him he's got a lot of momentum going in, and despite losing to John Moxley on Collision, and before he can answer, Ricochet interrupts and again tells him he's got momentum, and you're everything I've been looking for to help me get gold in AEW, and he invited him to team up with him tonight against Jet Speed. Doesn't even give him a chance to answer, shakes his hand and thanks him for accepting. This was bizarre on so many levels, but it was entertaining.
I liked it. I think it's weird because it'll play into the match.
Oh, the match is another story.
But I think Ricochet should have said, "Hey, if you show me something out there tonight, and if we win, you're in." Kind of a thing, kind of to tempt him, but we still want to keep AR Fox as the baby face in some ways because it's kind of his hometown, I guess. I don't know.
Well, here's the thing: if he actually has momentum, like he claims, then why does he need Ricochet? But no, he's a baby face. I don't think he wants to team with Ricochet.
Okay. So you know what we needed then? We needed AR Fox to be self-aware.
Yes.
And say, I don't have any momentum, Renee. I've lost every match I've had in this company. Have I come close to winning? Yes, but that's not momentum. That's coming close. Yeah. And him being down on himself, and then Ricochet, who is then the cure for that, comes in and goes, I got just the thing to cheer you up. You are close. I've known you for years. This is just a phase. Let's go out there as partners tonight. And if you win, I've been looking for a crew. You can join me. If it goes well.
He's like not sure, but he's like,
yes,
I'll get a match on Dynamite.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's the other thing is AR Fox is just a crappy actor.
Well, this is it. Okay, and this is my point. For someone that is like extremely talented and he's influential and he's training guys and everybody loves him and the crowd absolutely loves him. I have no idea why, but he gets over all the time. This guy is terrible. Like, he's a bad actor in the ring. He, like, I've mentioned this before in like the 4-way matches, he like stands outside the ring in front of the camera and does nothing and stares at the action in the ring to completely expose the business. He claps his hands when he does kicks. He's like, but
okay, you're talking about something totally different than I am.
But he's entertaining. And so I think people like want him to succeed and they want to get behind him. But then when they get to this match, I didn't understand what they were trying to accomplish with this match, because the match starts off.
Okay, I'll tell you before you start if you want, but
tell me.
The whole point of this match was that Ricochet was a liar, and we're getting him over as a heel, and that AR Fox is a sympathetic babyface against Jet Speed, who we're supposed to be cheering for to want.
Yes, this is my problem. Like, this match was all about this undercard storyline, but with Ricochet.
Yes, the emotional fulcrum was about AR Fox, who is a means to an end in this entire thing. Yeah,
who's Ricochet facing it all in? He's probably going to be in that Casino Gauntlet match, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's doesn't have a crew. This is like an ongoing storyline that will get wrapped up. At some point, he's going to have a crew, and maybe it'll be by All In. Who knows? But it's like an undercard storyline.
So yeah,
this match could have and should have happened. Number one, it should have happened on Collision, and number two, it should have happened against a team that wasn't going to be challenging for the tag team title.
No, this is Tony in his booking head going, AR Fox gets cheered at Defy all the time. He's a big star there. Let's give him some shine here, even if it's in a throwaway match. So what we're going to do is have Ricochet come out there, not wait to screw him. He's going to be screwing him the entire match so that the problem is the guys on the other side of this match, which is also a problem for the post-match beatdown.
Right.
But let's go into this. Should have been the gates of agony or something.
Yes.
Killing AR
Yes.
Fox.
So they have this match, and AR Fox is running wild at first, and the crowd's behind him, but he's running wild on two baby faces that are going to be challenging for the tag team titles. So he's running wild, and then eventually he makes a tag to Ricochet, and Ricochet gets beat up by Jet Speed. So he makes the tag back out to AR Fox, and now the baby face has got the heat on him. And then Ricochet eventually walks out on AR Fox, leaves him by himself, and then the baby faces get the win over AR Fox 2-on-1. And so now the whole story of this match was AR Fox lost, but he probably would have won if Ricochet hadn't bailed on him. The announcers flat out said that.
His friends are beating him up.
Yes, yes.
With no
so that all happens, right? Ricochet leaves. The baby faces get the win, and then they leave AR Fox in the ring by themselves. They go up the ring, and they're met by Tony Schiavone, and he calls them red hot, which is true. They've been winning. And then Bailey says, the titles have been held hostage. There's a lot of that going on in AEW. And we're here for their rescue. And then Kevin Knight says that they've been held hostage like the OKC has been holding the Sonics hostage, which was a great line for the live crowd, but not so much for the national television audience.
No.
But, yeah. And then so then they end up getting attacked from behind by the Hurt Syndicate.
Well, not just that. Kevin Knight goes into MVP's old theme song from what is it? It's not 3-6 Mafia. That was Mark Henry. Silk the Shocker. That's who
it was. So old I didn't even remember it.
It's one of my favorite entrances. So it's one of those things. I love I want the inflatable tunnel back. That's what I want, but I'm never going to get it.
The only one I remember from that time period is Drew McIntyre's one, which was like maybe the best wrestling entrance ever.
Yeah. Well, once they cut out the long intro, sure.
Yeah. I like biscuits and gravy too, but that's a guilty pleasure. The Hurt Syndicate comes out. They beat the living hell out of Bailey and Knight. Put Bailey through a table. Benjamin choked out Kevin Knight. They just made them look like complete and utter jobbers.
They absolutely destroy them. And then they go into the ring and MVP goes, who's going to challenge us for the tag team titles? And I'm like, are you effing kidding? They should have let those two make the save. They should have destroyed AR Fox. And then Jet Speed comes in to make the save because then they go, well, if you recover, maybe we'll give you a tag team title shot. I go, oh, that's mighty magnanimous.
If you can walk MVP in the next 2 weeks, I think is the words he said, which obviously they're going to be able to walk. So they're going to get them. They're probably going to be in a match next week.
But who wants to see that then after they just got destroyed? I mean,
I don't have much hope. Okay, put it this way. The match will be good. It'll probably be great.
We're going to be waiting for Speedball to take the fall.
Yes.
Might as well call him
maybe Speedball, Kevin Knight to turn on him. Like I
join the Hurt Syndicate.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We got a super chat here, and it's related to what we were just talking about. Fun fact: Silk Brother raps the NWO Wolfpack theme. Oh wow, I did not know that. Thank you for pointing that out. Cyclops is better than Wolverine. I will take your word for Cyclops.
$1.99 in the new fund for the next Dynamite.
Yeah, and we got $5 last week too, so that's $7.
Okay, so we're up to $7.
We're up to $7, and we're gonna do that January 8th, 2020. Probably by the end of the month. Jeff and I got to work out the date, but we'll let everybody know on Twitter. Well, wait a minute. The end of the month is this week. Might be next week. Next week sometime. Early July. Before all in, though, we want to get this
for murder.
We want it. Maybe we'll do it so that we can air it one of those weeks I'm gone. Because
afternoon of 4th of July, I'm probably free.
Oh, there you go. Well, I work.
We'll get a time.
So anyways, they destroyed them, and that led to this promo segment. And so MVP did the challenge, quote unquote, and then he turns the mic over to the young genius, as he called him, MJF. And I don't know if this is setting up a churn, but MJF kept trying to get his promo started, and MVP kept interrupting him, which was weird. Because like it seemed like it was throwing MJF off.
He's been doing this a lot, and I don't enjoy they don't have a rhythm. That's the problem here. Is it would be okay if they had a rhythm, but MVP, it's almost like, okay, they're cheering for the Hurt Syndicate. They're cheering for the Hurt Syndicate. Now I need to make sure this crowd turns heel, so I have to interject on MJF's promos to make sure that they get heels in case MJF does a laugh line here.
Gotcha. Okay. Because it was weird because he starts talking about Mystico, and then MJF and then MVP interrupted him and then started insulting the Sonics and everything. And then by the time MJF started talking again, he wasn't talking about Mystico anymore. So yeah, and then he's like, then he says that he's going to enter a qualifying match next week for the Casino Gauntlet. And I'm like, hold on. Later tonight, we have a 4-way for the number 1 spot in the Casino Gauntlet. Okay, that's fine. They've done this before. Number 1 is the only way you can guarantee you're in, unless you're number 2. Now, unless MJF is trying to qualify for the number 2 spot, this makes no sense because nobody's ever had to qualify to be in this gauntlet before, other than, like, it's just completely random. People lose that 4-way and they're in. So I don't know what's going on with this qualifying match next week, but I guess we'll see. But anyways, then he starts talking about, so he says it'll be 1 step to get back what's his, not Dictator John's, not the Crooked Cowboy, but my AEW World Championship. And then he says to hit their music, but instead Mark Briscoe's music hits and people went nuts. So he comes out and he says, you can hear yourself talk all day long, but we got a time limit. So if you could be so kind, get out of the ring so I can do my business. And MJF says, I don't give a damn what my time is. We can take up as much as we want because unlike you, we're actually stars. MJF says the fans relate to you because they have as many bills in their pockets as you have teeth in your mouth. That was a good line. And he says,
but that was followed by a perfect camera shot of Mark Briscoe kind of like with his teeth out. I love it.
He's got like 4 teeth. It's like, great. And then he says, you're going to do what you always do and lose. And so you can go back to your ranch, pick it up chicken shit, you blue-collar bitch. And Briscoe says, I see your inner turmoil and pain, and all these hurtful comments is from growing up and getting bullied. So the word of the day is empathy. And people chanted empathy. So he says, please allow me to empathize, as it feels like you're trying to make up for something. And if Briscoe was MJF going 30 years with a tiny kosher pickle in his pants, and of course this led to a tiny pickle chant, you'd want to hang out.
I need to pause you here. Number 1, the way that I love when heels sell insulting lines.
Yeah.
It's a time like I don't necessarily want to see a bump from an insult, which I've seen before.
Oh yeah,
this was fantastic, and also a nice
money balls.
This was a nice callback to MJF selling those overpriced pickles to all.
Which I know personally, at least 2 people that bought them.
Oh, I do too. Yeah.
And I want one. So anyways,
pickles, Paul, for God's sake.
I know. And so when he used the tiny pickle line, Lashley and Benjamin couldn't keep a straight face.
Lashley was so fantastic in this segment with his reactions because number 1, he's genuinely amused by Briscoe. To the point where it also plays into when they're leaving the ring and he kind of gives Mark that pat on the back before he goes. It's kind of like being the gentleman villain kind of thing.
And the other thing is like he doesn't really like MJF and he doesn't want him in to begin with.
No, so, I get that too. But I'm also very happy because this is where I was afraid it was going. I was afraid MJF was going to invoke Jay for heat.
Oh no!
And I really didn't. And I really didn't want that at all. So I really did enjoy this segment. But please,
this set up some stuff. So then the fans were chanting for the tiny pickle, and then MJF says, "We're going to leave the ring so that you can do what you do better than anyone else and lose." And so they leave, and as you mentioned, they kind of give Briscoe almost like a virtual pat on the back as they're leaving. And they're going to do the 4-way after this. So it's what I was convinced of as soon as this segment was over was, number one, Briscoe's winning the 4-way. There's no question. They don't call him a loser as hard as they did without him winning. And then either MJF is going to win that match next week, and then he's going to pin Briscoe to win the gauntlet match, or Briscoe's going to pin him to win the gauntlet match. One of those two things has got to happen, in my opinion. Or Mark Briscoe is going to cost him the match next week, and then MJF isn't even in the gauntlet, which could happen. And then that'll lead to an MJF Briscoe feud, which I like. So, but I think it's pretty clear MJF and Briscoe are going to be doing a program after this. I think MJF winning that Casino Gauntlet just makes all the sense in the world. Like him walking around with this contract, because it is going to be, I'm pretty sure based on the wording that Tony Khan used when he announced this is going to be a Money in the Bank kind of thing, like Christian had last year. So you're going to have MJF walking around with his contract, no matter who the champion is. And he's the perfect guy to have it, in my opinion, for his character. So especially with the Hurt Syndicate behind him.
Okay, quick question. What's the order of pay-per-views after this one, if you know?
Forbidden Door in August in London. Then All Out in Toronto in September. Then Wrestle Dream in it's usually in the Seattle area. I'm not sure if it is again this year. Then Full Gear in November and World's End in December.
Okay, let's book this then.
Okay.
The opponent for MJF is Mystico next week.
That's Forbidden Door? Oh,
no. For next week.
Oh.
For the gauntlet. Mark helps Mystico beat MJF.
Okay.
MJF is still in the Casino Gauntlet, even though he lost.
I don't like that.
But that's how they tell the story a lot of times.
Okay. All right.
And then MJF wins the Casino Gauntlet, but still gets to face Mystico at Forbidden Door.
Maybe putting the contract on the line. Contract versus mask.
Oh. No, because you don't want to take the mask off of Mystico.
So Mystico gets a title shot.
No, Mystico should never get a title shot.
Yeah. Who knows? No, I think Mystico versus MJF is the Forbidden Door match for sure.
But I do too. And so I'm trying to figure out a way to get there while using both things of Mark helping whoever beat MJF. Oh, okay. Oh, well, you know what? It might be, you know what? It won't be Mystico next week, but it might be another luchador. It might be like a Bandito.
Well, Bandito was in the match this week, so.
Oh, never mind. You're correct about that.
Yeah. Hologram.
Commander's gonna be.
You know it could be awesome as Hologram, because Hologram never loses.
Yeah, so
you book MJF versus Hologram?
Hologram gets his streak still because Mark Briscoe helps him, but then Mark Briscoe takes the fall in the gauntlet to MJF, but it still doesn't solve your problem that you hate of the guy who loses the qualifier still being in the match.
Fernando says it should be Hurt Syndicate versus FTR. It should be, but it's not going to be.
I ain't disagreeing with you there.
No, it should
Although
be.
The rumors of that new tag team title.
What?
No. There are rumors of 2 tag team titles being put in there. A women's tag title. A women's tag title.
Okay,
and then an intergenerational tag team title.
Are you fuck?
I'm not kidding you. I read it, but it's on the internet, so it might not be true. It means so then you have
like an old person and a young person,
a legend and a new guy as a tag team.
That is the dumbest idea I've ever heard. So
I agree, right. but I'm hoping that they don't do it. I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm hoping the internet's wrong, but nevertheless.
Well, and that would be the Christian Nick Wayne thing, right?
Christian Nick Wayne. You have Dustin and Sammy. You have MVP and whoever. You have Billy Gunn and Bowens. You have a lot of options.
You have Cope and Garcia.
Cope and Garcia, yes.
God. Oh, my God. Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal.
Yeah, well, Jeff Jarrett and
Satnam Singh.
Satnam, yeah, there we go.
Oh, we could have Billy Gunn and Cal Hero. I watched that today. So it's Billy Gunn and Cal Hero against Tony Gunn, no relation, and Crixus. And the stipulation was that if Cal Hero's team won, then Cal Hero would get 5 minutes in the ring with Leather Daddy Doug Basham.
All right, stop watching classic OVW.
This is not classic. This was a week ago. And so Cal Hero's team won. So he gets his 5 minutes with Doug Basham. And Doug Basham is like the old manager, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doug Basham beat the living shit out of him, left him for dead. Cal Hero got like a 30-second comeback, and then the 5 minutes elapsed. It's hilarious. It's so bad.
That's just terrible booking. Let's move on.
It was awful. It's Al Snow. But Billy Snow got to come in and do his famouser, so that was cool. Anyways, 4-way. Bandito, Konosuke Takeshita, Mark Briscoe, and Roderick Strong for the number 1 spot in the men's casino gauntlet. So I was watching Mark Briscoe and Roderick Strong, and I was trying to figure out which of them had more gray hair. And then it occurred to me.
No. This is a good point, because I was going to bring this up, because I think gray hair Roddy is no buys. He looks like he looks like Mike Jackson in there.
So then it dawned on me. I first saw these guys feuding, and they actually had a match against each other in 2004, which is 21 years ago. But I first saw them feuding in 2006. It was Generation Next. It was Roderick Strong, his group. I think Jack Evans was in it, and maybe Kyle O'Reilly. I don't know. No, Kyle O'Reilly was later, but against the Briscoes. And that was 19 years ago that they were feuding. And here we are in 2025, and they're competing to get into a world title match. But I mean, they're both great workers, so it's no big deal. And I mean, this was the best match on the show by far. They had a great match. But it went exactly as you would expect. Takeshita wasn't going to win. Bandito wasn't going to win, because Bandito is going to be facing, probably going to be defending his ROH title at the pay-per-view. So it really was going to be Roderick Strong taking the loss, and it was probably going to be Mark Briscoe getting the win. And sure enough, he went for an end of heartache on Bandito, but Briscoe flew in with a froggy bow, got the win. Got the first spot in the men's casino gauntlet. They showed MVP and the Hurt Syndicate watching backstage. MJF was annoyed. Lashley was like, "You got it, dude." And so he's needling his new partner. But they had a really good match. Everybody got to shine. And the only thing I would say about this is, like, I feel like Takeshita is kind of getting like a little bit lost in the shuffle. And I feel like part of the reason is because I have a feeling he's going to be spending a lot more time in New Japan.
Yeah, well, he's going for the G1, so
and he might win the G1. So
that's fine. Find a way to write him off. I'm good with that.
Yeah, but I mean, that kind of leaves, like this tag team with Proteshita, like they should be like. I mean, you talk about
Hurt Syndicate. I want them against the Hurt Syndicate.
Yeah,
man, that'd be an awesome match.
Yeah, and then they're teasing Takeshita and Okada and Kyle Fletcher. I mean, Kyle Fletcher should be like the world champion, and he's like, I don't even know where he is on, I don't know what they're doing with Kyle Fletcher. Like, I was left with this because they announced a Kyle O'Reilly and Takeshita. No, Kyle O'Reilly and Kyle Fletcher, I think, are wrestling on Thunder, and I almost thought, or Thunder
on
Collision.
Thunder.
I'm Dave now. Well, it's on Thursday, but I think we're getting Proteshita and against the Paragon at All In. I think we're getting like those two, and then it'll be Adam Cole and because it's
Cole and Fletcher at
so you're right. Maybe so Takeshita is probably gonna end up in this casino gauntlet. More likely than not, right? Even though he lost, and Roddy Strong will be in there too, or he'll be backstage and won't get his number called. It's probably what's going to happen. Tony,
or he ends up costing Okada the match against Kenny.
Yeah, that could be,
and gets beat down afterwards, and that's how they send him off to the G1.
That would be something that they would do, and Jeremy Feinstein will be very upset if they do that, but probably what's going to happen, because that's what they did to Kevin Knight when he went to the Best of the Super Juniors. Then we got, speaking of boring, Adam Cole did an open challenge for the Don Callis family for any one of them to face him for the TNT title tomorrow night on Collision. And I immediately thought, well, it's going to be Rocky or Josh Alexander. And sure enough, it's going to be Josh Alexander. Poor Josh. They added, it was bad enough that he was like the fourth guy in the stable, and now they added Okada, so he's like fifth now.
Like, I have no problem with this. It would be like, you can be the fifth guy in a stable. You just need to make him a weird person, a different personality of some sorts, and that's not Josh Alexander's strength.
Fernando says the tag division AEW is weak as hell. I would say the tag team title picture is weak as hell. They actually have a lot of great tag teams. They have
teams, but they go 50-50, or they're beating each other,
or they don't care one bit about the tag team titles. That's the problem.
Yeah, you don't get a lot of tag team promos like this.
Like you've got FTR, you've got Protashita, you've got, I mean, even Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong, like they're a really good team.
I would say the Outrunners are a pretty good team too, but
RPG Vice, the Outrunners, yeah. I mean, but yet none of them are really focused on the tag team titles. That's the problem. So, I mean, the Young Bucks I didn't even mention. Swerve
there's a lack of feuds in the tag team division.
Yes, yeah, and this is what John is saying. The tag team division is weak as hell because they haven't built anyone in the tag division to face the champs.
Well, it's a deep division, but they don't do anything with it.
And I've said this from day one, and I will say it until it doesn't happen. I think the end game for the Hurt Syndicate was they were going to lose the titles to CNC Wrestle Factory, Cope and Christian, and they aren't even together yet. So
no, because that's been delayed because Christian wants to continue doing this ridiculous go nowhere story with Nick Wayne and
so Hurt Syndicate aren't losing those belts anytime soon. Is what I'm saying. So then we went straight from this into the women's four-way, which they did a big long segment with like multiple directions coming out of it before the men's one, and the women's one, they just brought them out to the ring. I'm sure some people are not going to like that. But this was another one where I thought the winner was pretty obvious, and that's not a bad thing at all because first of all, Thunder Rosa and Athena are in this match, and they're clearly going to be facing each other at probably the ROH pay-per-view is what the rumor's been, but they've been setting that up for weeks on that show.
There was a rumor that was going to be on All In.
Well, that was just because Dave misspoke on Wrestling Observer Radio. Like he said it was going to happen in, All In, but what he meant was All In Weekend. And obviously this match has to be on the ROH show because really, like, there's nothing else. Like, I don't know why anybody would buy that ROH show. Like, they're not.
I don't know why there's an ROH show that weekend.
Well,
just do everything on the big. You have your biggest show of the year.
Because they already postponed this show once, and or maybe even twice. No, twice. Because originally it was going to be on WrestleMania weekend, then they postponed it to May, and then now they postponed it to now, and then they added a show during that residency. I think it's September or August that they're doing another one in Chicago.
I'm going to be the guy that says I think Athena deserves better, but
I agree. But anyway, so, you can kind of take Athena and Thunder Rosa out of winning this. So then you're left with Willow and Chris. And I think it makes a lot more sense for Chris to win because Willow doesn't really need the win and Chris kind of does right now. So, the match kind of went as it should have. I mean, I don't know. I don't think this match was great, but it was fine. It was maybe the second best match on the show, maybe the third best. I don't know, but either way, it's fine. It was, pretty good for a women's match, especially. But, all four of these women are pretty talented. And it's a good story that they told. And again, it came down to, and whether you like this or not, this was complete 100% WWE booking where, like you had the two women in the ring. So you Thunder Rosa and Athena were off doing their thing. So you're down to Willow and Chris, who are the two people that are feuding. And then out comes Marina Shafir to distract Willow. And while that's happening, Wheeler Yuta comes in the ring and he's going to attack Willow from behind. But then Willow ends up taking out Wheeler with a pounce. But then that distraction allows Chris to get the upper hand on Willow. And she hits her Saturday Night Fever. Looked really, really good, by the way. Like this is like the best that she's ever hit this finisher. And she got the win. And then Marina was happy. She dragged Yuta away. And Statlander, they tried to play it like she didn't know what was going on, but I don't know, like either she's not a very good actress or like you'd have to be stupid to not see what was going on. Like clearly, like she was in on this. Like I think in storyline. And if you miss Collision, they had a really, like, I thought a super interesting segment with where like Wheeler was trying to recruit her, and she kind of shot Wheeler down and said, "You're like a selfish prick. I don't trust you. I don't believe you. Nothing." And she kind of shoved him away. And while this was going on, she dropped her phone. And then someone off camera picks up the phone and hands it to her. And then the camera goes up and it's Moxley. And everyone was like gasping. And then John Moxley gives her the phone back and he says, "Don't you let anyone ever tell you what your worth is," and leaves it at that. So it's like he's basically like trying to recruit her. And this is like, okay, it's not just Wheeler. Like now Moxley wants her. And that's like, okay, now I'm interested. But then they had Wheeler running behind this camera. And like, I don't know if that was a production mistake or what, but kind of took a little bit away from it. But
and then eventually we get that hot Chris Statlander versus Marina Shafir program we've all been waiting for.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know what's going on there because like you said, I mean, the Death Riders thing should really wrap up at All In. But if they're bringing Chris in, then it's not going to be wrapping up. So I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. Unless Mox leaves and it's like Marina running things. I don't know. That would be lame.
They all turn on Mox for failing, and then Chris Statlander turns out to be his only friend.
That's actually interesting. Kind of like that. But yeah, so we got Chris as the number one entrant in the Casino Gauntlet, and I assume Willow will be in it, but probably not.
Who do you think wins the women? I mean, because it seems obvious that MJF should be the winner of that one. Do you think?
I think Stat should win it, honestly.
Okay.
But I mean, you could also do. I would imagine.
Then you have to turn her heel to make her interesting.
Well, I think this was the start of her turning heel.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is then that goes against the story I just told about Moxley.
Oh, I mean, what you're telling. Yeah, okay. I would. I actually know. I'm gonna, because I think we'll probably get a debut in that match. Probably, if I had to put money on it, I would say it'll be Shotzi Blackheart.
No,
you don't think so?
I don't think Shotzi is an AEW type. It would be a one-shot thing. I think that's more likely Dakota Kai.
I'm not sure if she's eligible yet. I don't know if
that's true. I just don't see.
No. I think Shotzi might be like just
the wild card or whatever.
Yeah. Like one shot. Like it doesn't.
Okay, one shot. I could see Shotzi, but I don't see her getting signed at all.
If Shayna was available, I think she'd be make perfect sense.
She'd be perfect too. Yeah,
I don't think she's available. So, because I think they were released in early May. I want to say so.
Elena Black shows up in this thing.
Oh God, that would be such a groan, but it's possible.
And then she and Sky Blue do the Spider-Man point.
Curry had, it should have been Athena versus Mercedes, and it should have been Tony versus Jamie Hayter, honestly. But
or Mariah somewhere in there.
Yeah, in a perfect world. But I think that because I will say, and there's two sides of this. The one side, and this is the way they went, is you want to have the biggest possible women's match you can do on the biggest possible show of the year, which is All In. Yes. My contention is I would rather have two really good women's matches than one massive one. And I think Mercedes and Athena would have been that, and I think Tony and whoever would have been the other one. And Athena and Mercedes both wanted this match, but they were overruled by their boss. So
right. And I still think the booking has been kind of off in terms of where people win and stuff. Like I think Tony should have had her big win in London, but that's me.
Yeah, but I do think the booking of this program has picked up the last couple of weeks.
No, it's been great. It's been fine. Yeah. It's just one of those things where it's like you're going to hear a lot of chirping about why isn't there a second women's match on this card?
Well, there is. There's
a one-on-one match. You know what I mean?
No, and you're always going to have that. And I think the women's Casino Gauntlet was Tony's answer to that.
Yeah.
Okay, we got a promo backstage. Renee Paquette with FTR and Big Stoke, and he did a promo. He talked about the Outrunners interrupting their 8-man or the celebration of their 8-man tag last week.
Okay, correct. Okay, this is something I want correction on, or if somebody from the company can DM me about this. was her calling him Stokely Hathaway a mistake or intended because he's now going to be known as Big Stoke?
Okay, that I can't tell you, but
I want to know this because we had the issue with Stokely Hathaway having to go away for a while. So I wonder if this is just a complete rebranding of him type of a thing. That's
Big
what I want
Stoke.
to know.
Well, yeah, or is it something where he wants to be referred to as Big Stoke and they're just it's like
so that we forget about the Stokely Hathaway character, kind of.
The one thing I don't like about this is that Stokely does a little too much in the way of comedy.
Yes.
And I don't think that the characters of FTR should be doing comedy. But
you know what? I agree. This promo, though, I think FTR pulling off kind of the smug, insincere heel, it worked a little bit better than it should have. But I agree with you on the premise because I want FTR to be Tully and Arn, but they're never going to be Tully and Arn. They're never going to have that kind of serious where they're putting guys out for like weeks by doing a pile drive.
So are they Sweet Stan and Beautiful Bobby and
yes,
and Stoke is Jim Cornette?
Yes.
Okay.
No, that's a great corollary. It really is.
All right. Well, he calls them upstanding.
Cash and Bobby have kind of a very similar charisma in terms of being able to do promos, and Dax and Stan kind of have a very similar.
Which is a weird. Like they don't look anything alike, but
they don't look anything alike, but they both have a certain gift of gab that helps their gimmick. So yeah,
absolutely, yeah. So Hathaway's mad that Truth and Turbo got involved, and he said we talked about how we could deal with this, and I suggested good old fashioned vandalism, but my men here said, no, we should settle this in the ring. So I'm like, okay, they're going to have a match. But no, they invited them to meet us in the ring. So they're not actually going to have a match. They're going to settle it in a respectable way in the ring. So this told me, like, this is actually the all-in match. Like FTR and Outrunners. Like, they're going to do an angle next week.
It might be on the 0 hour, but yes, or whatever it is. And I think what's going to happen is I think the Outrunners are going to get beat down, and there's going to be some vandalism involved, some spray paint.
Oh, okay. They're going to start spraying FTR on people?
Probably.
Okay. Well, I'm here for that. And then we got our main event, which was Hangman Adam Page and the Beast Mortos. And
excuse me, that's the Beast Mortos Esquire.
Yeah. I'm ready for when the rating comes in for this, and it's not very good, for Dave's rant about how Beast Mortos is a really good wrestler, but he's not a main eventer.
Yes.
And I will say, okay, this match was fine, but I was shocked because it was Beast Mortos, right? And it was Hangman Adam Page, and I was expecting them to go back and forth, and I wasn't really watching the time, so I didn't know how much time was left in the show or anything. I was expecting like these two to go back and forth and have like a 15-minute match with like 12 near falls. And nope, this was exactly what it should have been.
This was a squash.
This was almost a squash. I mean, Mortos did hit his pop-up Samoan drop, and he did the lung blower. And I got to say, it was really funny because when he did the pop-up Samoan drop, they cut to a replay, and they showed the pop-up Samoan drop in one screen, but then they showed the lung blower in the other screen, and they were almost like synced. So it looked like the exact same thing was happening on both screens, and I had no idea which one was live and which one was the replay. It was kind of funny, but that was literally like almost the only offense Samoa Joe Beast Mortos got. He went for a tombstone. Page got out of it, and then then Page hit a poison Rana and a lariat, and then he followed with a buckshot. The other thing that was notable about this match was Hangman, I think this was before the commercial, went for a freaking that top rope moonsault that he does, missed Mortos, landed on his feet, and I was thinking, oh my God, are you an idiot? Why would you do this move like 2 weeks before All In? And then Taz basically said the same thing on commentary, and I don't know why he did it. Like, because that's a risk you don't really want to take. Like, save that for the pay-per-view, because that's a spectacular move. and you weren't going to hit it anyways. So, the risk versus reward on something like that is just not there. But Hangman got like an impressive win over a guy that never wins, as it should happen. And it was almost there to be just a setup for what was going to happen later.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So you agree?
Yeah. Nothing to say about this match for the most part.
Yeah, it was. I was shocked, like, honestly, because you almost never see an AEW main event with this. But then, after the lights went out and they came back on, the Young Bucks are in the ring and they're about to hit him with an EVP trigger. And I'm like, okay, Hangman's going to fire up. He's going to lay out both the Bucks. Nope. he just got laid out with an EVP trigger. And then that cues the Death Riders. So they come out. Moxley's out with the Marina and Wheeler. I don't know where Claudio is. I don't know where Claudio is. Like, he didn't show up to Arena Mexico.
He had issues getting into Arena Mexico, and he's had issues. I mean,
and then John Cena mentioned him on SmackDown. So what is he going to Raw? It's weird. That's a whole other issue. I have my theories on that, but anyways, we won't talk about that. But yeah, so he's surrounded, and then Shafir gave Moxley a chain, wrapped it around Hangman's throat, choked him out. The Ops came out to try to do something, and the Bucks and Yuta were able to hold them off. Then Will Ospreay came out, made the save. Death Riders and Bucks left to the crowd. Doctors are looking at Paige, and then Moxley does one last promo to the camera, tells them at All In, I'm going to show the world what one champion looks like, and again says, or it was him, he said it, and then Excalibur again. They're really hammering home this point that, like, if Hangman doesn't win, like, that's it for him.
They needed a beat here where someone was trying to find Swerve and Ospreay backstage.
Yeah.
To explain why they weren't the first ones to rush out there.
Well, you know what's weird? Last week, Hangman was out to save Ospreay.
Right.
Or to save Swerve. This week, Swerve didn't save Ospreay. Or Swerve didn't save Hangman.
Right.
That was not played up, but I think that's an important part of this.
Well, they were the second wave of saving people, right?
But Swerve never came out, did he?
Oh, so that's right. Swerve never came out. So yeah, it's like, hey, where were you? Type of a thing. And can they trust each other in blood and guts?
And the weird thing is because it was Hangman that said, I'm never going to help him. And here it was, he did help him, but now
Swerve, that could have been more obvious in that backstage thing where they find both Ospreay and Swerve, and hey, something's going on, and then like Nana just kind of gives the hand back to Swerve or something like that. Remember what you said, boss.
Yeah,
kind of a thing.
Yeah, so I think this is part of the story that they didn't really play up, but I mean, they can't ignore it either. And then I thought, like, this, because of all this that happened at the end, is why people are thinking, oh, we might get blood and guts like soon.
Yeah, no, that's why I was thinking that too. I was like, man, this is a hell of a setup for blood and guts right here.
We'll probably know by tomorrow, because if they are going to do it quick, they'll probably do something on Collision to set it up, I would think. And we got apparently, like, I don't even remember them saying some of this stuff, but here's the lineup for the next couple shows. Well, most of it was set up. Adam Cole and Josh Alexander for the TNT titles, so he accepted the open challenge. FTR called out the Outrunners. Templario and Brody King against Hechisario and Rocky Romero. That's weird. I don't know when this was announced, but it's here. Christian Cage and Nick Wayne against Big Bill and Brian Keith. So, I mean, they set that up on last week's Collision. Queen Almanada and Sky Blue. Okay. And Kyle Fletcher and Kyle O'Reilly. I did see that, the Battle of the Kyles. So, and then next week to Dynamite, Okada and Ibushi, Mercedes and Mina Shirakawa, and MJF competes in a Casino Gauntlet qualifier. That's the stuff for next week. So, we hit it in just under 90 minutes. So, anything else you want to add, or should we do our close? No? Okay.
Let's do our close.
All right. Get your plugs in.
You can follow me on X at CrapGame13. I do a show on Shake the Ropes on the Voices of Wrestling podcasting network called Shake Them Ropes. Myself and Chris Novembrino going through all the news of that week for WWE and AEW this week. Crown Jewel, whatever, Night of Champions, It's Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Mania is what I go with.
It's fraught with Middle Eastern tension.
Are they going?
Oh, they're on their way, my friend.
Are they? Okay.
And I'm sure Chris will have some thoughts on the government of Saudi Arabia. So we'll talk about that. And I don't have the Vader Club pick just yet, so I can't plug that. But that will drop sometime later this week, hopefully before Night of Champions, since he's not going to watch the Saudi show. But it might end up being after the Night of Champions, so we may just be talking about the postscript, or at least I will be.
It was so weird because Monday, all day, all anybody was talking about was, they got to cancel the show. They got to cancel the show. And then I haven't heard anything about it since then. So it's weird. So for me, I don't really, I'll be back with Garrett. We didn't do a show this week, but we'll be doing one next week. And we'll probably talk about some of the stuff that happened at Night of Champions. Yeah, that's what it's called, right? Night of Champions? Yeah. Mm-hmm. That'll be Monday on the Fight Game Media Network audio feed. Well, it'll go Tuesday morning in your feed, and then we'll have video clips up all week. Garrett likes to split them up and release them throughout the week. So we'll talk about whatever news comes out of those shows this weekend, or that show, I guess. And there's a UFC as well, so I think I'll be on Wrestling Observer Radio on Saturday as well, so you can check that out if you're a Wrestling Observer subscriber. So for Jeff Hawkins, I've been Paul Fontaine, and this has been The Dynamite Show.